Hello friends! It's the return of the unusual glasses today. I'm not completely happy with how they've repaired my former glasses, and I thought that these odd glasses had quite a good response on that video to my surprise, so I thought I would use them here. Today I'm going to be recording a couple of videos since I had some time. One is the fasting update for my 11th day of fasting, and the others will be on a variety of topics that I was thinking about this morning. To begin, let's talk about the 11th day and what's going on with this extended fasting experiment. So first of all, I have a couple of updates from the last 2 days. The first thing is that the sleep continued to be excellent on the 9th night, except that on the 10th night, which was last night, for some reason I had a very unusual sleeping experience. I woke up at 2 in the morning and I've been awake ever since. Right now it's 8 in the morning. So I'm not sure why that was. I don't think it had anything to do with the fast, to be honest. It seems that the sleep change that occurred really toward after the 7th day, this deep sleep and longer sleep continued. And I have heard about other people experiencing this on fast before, but I had never really experienced it myself that much. I'll analyze it maybe a little bit more and a little bit later in the discussion. I've written some notes so I don't forget anything because I keep forgetting stuff at each time. The second thing is I still have barely any energy. Basically, it's like I reported last time. I reply to people laconically. I don't really want to answer emails. I have very low energy to do anything. I read very slowly. I'm essentially completely unproductive. And I'm not even, even I tried to watch some kind of, documentaries or television shows, and I'm not even successful at doing that. So it is a quite unpleasant experience for me. There are, as I said last time, no real negative feelings. It's not that I'm in a bad mood or anything like that. It's just a feeling of being very drained. So I am able to work for about 3 or 4 hours a day. But the energy level goes away very quickly after that, and in a way that I've never really seen before in my life. I've never experienced this. My first 7-day fast, I never came anything like that. In the last 2 days of the fast, I was less productive. In those days, I was sometimes lightheaded slightly. I actually had lower blood pressure because I was still taking blood pressure medication, but it didn't really impact my work much, not in a very noticeable sense. However, in this fast it did, and I'll try to analyze a little bit why in a little bit. But essentially, what I've decided to do, and some of you who communicate with me on Reddit or on Instagram will know that I've decided to stop the fast as of today. So there will have only been 10 nights of full fasting, water fasting, with supplements for the beginning of it. And the remaining days, though, I will be implementing a fasting mimicking diet. Now, originally on the first video of this, I essentially promised you guys that I would fast until I felt like I thought I would end up feeling like I was damaging my brain in some way. To be honest, I don't feel like I am. Now that might be the reason I'm so low energy, because it's a mental thing. It's not a physical thing as much as mental. I don't mind walking around and stuff like that. It's more a mental kind of energy. So I might be damaging my brain and not realize it. But it's not that actually that's causing me to decide to stop it, but rather, I don't know if you guys saw the last interview with Jerry Brainham that we had. Jerry was talking about his natural inclination to always be working and moving forward in his life, and I share that inclination myself. And I don't think it's just myself or Jerry, or in Jerry's case he was talking about Ashkenazi Jewish culture, but rather people in general. I do believe that one of the integral elements of happiness in life in general is moving towards some kind of goal in a specific manner. I've described this before in the happiness video that Lucie Asked Leo series, the happiness video. But basically, it seems to me like I can't stand not moving forward in some way. And because I know that this extended fast isn't that helpful toward my health in my mind, because that's what I think at least. Obviously, the research on extended fast is not very extensive, so we don't really know. Maybe I am doing something with this one big shot of crushing down mTOR and stuff that I don't know about. But to me, it doesn't seem that productive, and instead I'm basically a vegetable in some kind of way. So I'm really not enjoying this. And so the only reason really to continue at this point would be to accomplish my original goal, which was not to meet people who have fasted longer than me frequently. And I'm not sure I've accomplished that, because Vigorous Steve has still fasted a day or 2 days longer than me, or a day longer than me. But I probably won't meet many people who fasted 10 days, so I'm trying to find an excuse for myself, because I really, really don't like this. I mean, I could just wait 2 more days, or I was originally thinking in my mind I would do it for 2 weeks. But so 14 days, but I really don't like this. And you know, coming from my background in grad school, my main mentor was a decision scientist, and my thesis was in decision science, and you know, a lot of my undergrad was in microeconomics. So I'm very sort of not brainwashed, but I'm very trained in rational decision making, and to me it doesn't seem rational to continue doing something that after learning new information and not incorporating that information. And the new information I learned is that I had no idea that this level of fasting would cause this feeling. Now, I've never experienced that before. As I said, you know, my first few fasts, even when I wasn't adapted, doing my first few fasts as an adult, even when I wasn't adapted, the 6th and 7th days were not like this. Now, I have some theories on why it happened. You know, first of all, I've mentioned before, this supplementation is, I think that supplementation is what caused me to get this gastrointestinal distress, which in turn I think caused some kind of malnutrition in me and removed a lot of energy in me. So I think my feeling is that that was the reason. But someone else mentioned in a comment that it could have been the fact that this time I also introduced another confounding variable, which is I started drinking the 0-calorie soft drinks again, which I hadn't done since maybe my second 7-day fast quite a while ago. So that could also be it. Potentially that's causing distress in the I mean, it is probably causing distress in the microbiome, but I've never experienced this from that, so I don't really think it's that, to be honest with you, but it could be. Another thing that could be the cause is that I have never fasted past 7 days in my lifetime. So I did 3 more days this time, full days. I've never done those 3 days before. Now, with that said, I was much more tired on the 6th and 7th day than I was on the last 6th or 7th day that I did in a 7-day fast, even though I've done multiple 5-day fasts since then. So I'm not completely sure. It could be that. Maybe it's the case that if I do more of these 10-day fasts, I will eventually adapt to the 9th and 10th day and be completely fine. I'm not sure. But for me, the learning lesson was that I do not want to supplement on extended fasts. I thought, you know what, it won't harm anything. I really didn't think it was going to help anything. In fact, it could hurt some of the stress. Basically, you want your body to be in stress. I mean, there's 2 things you want to be going on in your body. One is stress, and the second is like a hormetic kind of stress, which means a stress that causes a net positive in your body. And the second thing you want is nutrient deprivation. So I was nutrient deprived, but I was not as stressed because of the antioxidants and herbs that I was taking. So potentially it could have been negative. But I just have a tendency to want to supplement all the time, so I tried it. This was a mistake. I hope you guys can learn from my mistake. I never needed it. The only thing you really need on an extended fast, unless you are a diabetic, a serious diabetic, in which case even then, even if you're taking insulin or some other kind of diabetic drug, you have to adjust the insulin or the diabetic drug as you go through the fast, because you will quickly adapt to it. And you could end up putting yourself in a situation where you have to eat because your glucose level is too low. But for a normal person, the only things that you really need are magnesium. And in the first couple of days of a fast, you may need some non-hypnotic sleep inducers, you know, some kind of tranquilizer that's not hypnotic, not a real tranquilizer. So things like phosphatidylserine 100 or GABA, supplemental GABA, or melatonin, or higher doses of melatonin, things like that. And that actually only really lasts for the first couple of days. So that magnesium, that, and sometimes some people will need salt. I tried to use a lot of salt here during this fast. In fact, I took a lot of salt last night. But the reason I was doing that was because I was ending up dehydrated because of the gastrointestinal distress. Usually, actually, on my 5-day fast, I don't even consume salt anymore. I don't need it. So, in my opinion, don't try this supplementing thing that I did. I don't think it's necessary. I know Walter Longo includes some supplements, multivitamins, and fish oil in his fasting mimicking diet. I don't think it's necessary at all, but he's a very conservative person. For me, maybe the multivitamin and the fish oil won't cause distress, but definitely the herbs that I was taking, all these other kind of things, totally unnecessary and a mistake. So that's the learning lesson I had this time. Now, a couple of other things I wanted to talk to you guys about that I was thinking about actually in the last few days, but I didn't mention in the other fasting updates. So first of all, one thing I noticed, and I've noticed this before, but it wasn't so clear to me because I never fasted up to 10 days before, which is the sympathetic nervous tone stimulation that occurs during the first 3 days or so, which is very intense, prevents you from being able to sleep much. It really does diminish on the 4th and 5th day, and I didn't really notice this before, but I guess it diminishes a little bit further on the 6th and 7th day, but I didn't really notice that. Maybe it diminishes a bit less there. But what I did notice on this 10-day fast is it really diminishes after that. So that's where I really started seeing this very deep sleep. I believe that this sympathetic nervous tone stimulation that happens the first few days really shuts down later on in the fast. So for this reason, people that are interested in losing visceral fat may benefit more from shorter fasts than they may from longer fasts, where you want that sympathetic nervous tone stimulation. So in particular, probably the most optimal period is the 3-day fast, although that won't go so far as to be the healthful side, which happens maybe on the 4th and 5th day. So that's one thing I noticed. The second thing I noticed is that the thyroid, or the metabolism in general, which is also affected by the sympathetic nervous tone, but in general the metabolism seems to almost linearly decrease through the fast. So I continue to get colder as the days go by. I don't know when it stops. I guess it stops decreasing sometime after the 10th day. I won't know exactly. But that is one interesting outcome. So here's a couple of ideas I had. Now the first thing, as I continue onward, I just want you guys to know, I'm going to be eating a fasting mimicking diet. I described that diet in the first video in the series. For people who didn't see that very long video, which is also on the podcast, there's a playlist on my channel. If you go to the channel at the top, you can select playlists. You can see the different playlists. There's one called fasting. The first video in the series has a similar picture as the rest, me holding an empty plate, and that's an hour and 20-minute video. In that video, I discuss the details, however, of the fasting mimicking diet. However, I'm going to be doing the diet as Walter Longo describes, sort of just experimentally for myself. I'm going to follow it exactly as it is for a few more days. I don't know how many more days, but I want to be able to know at least that I fasted to some degree a long period of time, the longest I've done before. And I have noticed that when I used that diet before, it gave me enough energy to continue 2 more days without even feeling tired at all. So I think that'll work very well. And I'll continue to update you guys on this. The fasting experiment continues. Now it's just not a water fast. So I'll continue doing these updates every so often. Maybe less frequently, but I'll continue to do them. Oh, by the way, overall, I lost 20 pounds. Now, the reason I lost 20 pounds, I think, is because 10 pounds in the beginning probably was from that carb up phase, because I went way beyond my normal weight. My normal weight maximizes at 175, and that's if I've gained some fat, whereas I was 184 or so. So, but I lost, about 10 pounds in addition to that. Which is, I suppose, I haven't actually probably been this low for a few months. So I suppose it's probably since the gym's closed. So I did lose some fat at the end of it, in addition to the water weight and the glycogen and all of that. Now, so let me tell you about some of my ideas. Oh, I didn't mention another thing, which is that during the fasting, I guess today I'm going to do it. Before I start the fasting mimicking diet, I'm going to take another dose of rapamycin. It's been over a week. I take a very low dose. You know, the problem with taking high doses, I really would like to do a video on rapamycin, but I don't tend to do videos unless I get asked questions about it directly. But somebody was commenting on my original post on Instagram about the fasting that he takes quite a high dose in the teens of rapamycin, teens of milligrams a day, a week. The problem with that is I have a very strong impression based on some studies that level of rapamycin, which rapamycin it prefers to shut off mTORC1, which is mTOR complex 1, but it also does shut off mTORC2. And at high enough dose, it will shut off mTORC2, which is probably not something good and not beneficial. So I take a low enough dose, infrequently enough, that I take them once a month, right, on my fast. So it's very infrequent, that I just quickly shut off mTOR1. so that the first 2 days of the fast I'm already make sure that mTOR1 is already completely off. So I'm going to do that again now, just in case this fasting mimicking diet turns it back on in some kind of way. So I'm pharmacologically improving the fast a little bit. So as you guys know from the first video in the series, I am interested in pharmacologically improving fast. Now I thought about a couple of things. Just because of the amount that I was cold during the fast, I started to think that taking some kind of thyroid, like Cytomel, maybe it's not beneficial to me because I'm not interested so much in losing weight, although it could stress the body a little bit more. But it would be interesting to experiment with for somebody that's experienced already with fasting. Especially for somebody that's interested in losing weight, and especially somebody that's already on anabolic hormones and is already working out. Because this could diminish that seemingly linear decrease in thyroid hormone, which, you know, I've never measured my thyroid like repeatedly on days of a fast. I would like to try that experiment one day, but it feels like a linear decrease. So that's one thing. The second thing is, and again, this is not so much for me, but maybe for other people who are experienced again with fasting, to try to use some kind of adrenergic agonists. Like, for example, not like this one, but people are familiar with clenbuterol, which is an agonist of the adrenergic receptors. But there are other agonists. It's an interesting concept because the sympathetic nervous tone seems to diminish quite a bit. Like there's a 3-day period, then a 2-day period, or maybe there's a 3-day period, then a 4-day period, and then it really diminishes. So on the remaining days, it might be interesting to stimulate it. Again, maybe not so much for me. What is interesting to me is a mitochondrial uncoupler, like for example, what's that called? DNP. The DNP is not the only mitochondrial uncoupler. There are many others that are in research papers that are not produced frequently. But a mitochondrial uncoupler would be interesting because that would cause genuine stress to the body in a different way. And why this might be useful is maybe on the first couple of days of the fast or on an extended fast to continue the stress past a certain point. Now these are all experimental things and they've never been studied before, and I'm not entirely sure that they're necessary, but I may experiment with them in the future. For right now, I'm limiting myself to rapamycin, metformin, and ACAR. Although essentially, actually, this time I was using also berberine, which has some kind of minor light AMP kinase activation. Anyway, so that's my update on the fast so far. I'll probably update you guys in 2 or 3 days more and let you know how the fasting mimicking diet is going. I'm currently at 164 pounds, so it's a little bit above 164, so it's about an even 20 pounds. And you know, I wish you guys a great day. I hope you guys learned something from this fast. I certainly did. I learned not to supplement during the fast, which I never knew before because I never did it before. And I never went past 7 days, so I never experienced this extreme kind of tiredness. Although I have to tell you guys, for those of you that are concerned, because some people have been commenting, you know, this is why I don't do extended fast, because I feel like that. Whenever I did my 1 week fast, I never felt like this. Never, ever. So one of the reasons may be that before I started doing those fasts, I was always restricting my eating during the day. So if you're trying to get into extended fasting yourself, some people are asking like, how would I go and get into it? What I would do is first begin shortening the window with which you eat during a day for periods of time. It's not going to hurt you that much. And even if you're a bodybuilder, just do it once a while so you adapt to it. You don't have to do it every day. And then eventually start by a 24-hour fast, then a 48-hour, and slowly increase it. Not consistently, you know, increase it every few weeks. Until you get to a point, because you can do it without experiencing what I felt, that extreme lethargy where you can't do anything. Because I never experienced that. Even the first time I fasted more than a day was 7 days, and I didn't experience that. So you don't have to go through it too. Don't be alarmed by what I went through this time. And as I said, I truly believe it may have been that gastrointestinal distress that caused it. So I'm not sure if I'm going to try this again, this long period thing, because as you guys know, I really believe that I have a very... at least according to the information we know from research, I think I have the ideal program of the 5 days every month and now the 7 days every 3 months. I'm not sure I need to go beyond 7 days. Maybe I'll try it just for experiments to see if it changes. But other than that, I'll continue with the fasting mimicking diet. I'll start up the rapamycin again today, and I'll let you guys know in a couple or 3 days how it's going. By the way, be sure, I shouldn't have said this at the end, but be sure to check out my wife Lucie's channel. She opened up a channel after I've tried to convince her for a while, because she's actually has a she has a great personality. She has a lot to say, a lot of life experiences, and I thought it would be fun for her to open up a channel as well. But she needs a lot of encouragement because she's not so comfortable. Like, I'm still not comfortable talking to the camera at all, but Lucie's even less comfortable than me. So if you guys encourage her over there, it would be very kind of you, and I really appreciate it. And so I'll see you guys next time. I'm gonna record a couple more videos for you. Bye bye.